The sound was deafening, a scene too terrible to describe, utterly vile and cruel. He didn't take Han Li and the others seriously at all. All the Tannan cultivators could not escape. A bloody battle thus began. A gray-green light burst forth from Wei Wuya's body. Then, his figure vanished into the poisonous mist once more, and the mist, which had just calmed down, began to surge violently. Suddenly, flying out from within it, were several emerald-green flood dragons formed from the poisonous mist. Bearing their fangs and claws, they pounced into the air. They were somehow able to withstand the surging demonic light, holding their ground for the moment. Seeing this, Patriarch Ling Hu and the woman in white immediately exchanged a glance, and transformed into two streaks of light, shooting towards Wei Wuya. The woman in white took out a treasured mirror that shone with purple light. It released an unusually thick 5-colored pillar of light. In a single blast, it tore through the light barrier before them. She flew through it without any hesitation. As for Patriarch Ling Hu, his original ring-shaped ancient treasure had been destroyed. He could only take out the jade Ruyi scepter he had used before. First, he used it to protect his entire body. Then, he sent out a small, emerald green seal. It transformed into a cloud of green light, and smashed towards the colored poisonous mist. Its power was also quite formidable. In their minds, even if Wei Wuya was severely injured, but, as a great cultivator, who had dominated the heavenly south for hundreds of years, he was naturally a bit more reliable than staying by Han Li's side. At the very least, that demonic soul's invisibility technique was just too bizarre. The two of them had no confidence they could see through it. It was better to be under the protection of Wei Wuya's poison mist. Dealing with the other demonic creature would be a bit safer. In the blink of an eye, the two of them flew into the green mist. Wei Wuya had already opened a path for them, allowing the two of them to enter safely and unharmed. Han Li had no mind to continue paying attention to Patriarch Ling Hu and his companion. Instead, he turned to the sincere-looking old man, and glanced faintly at his group. But what he saw made him pause for a moment. He saw that the three of them over there were caught off guard, and were struck by that streak of light which had transformed into a dark purple, ink-like light that shone upon them. However, these three were of such an advanced stage, and were also Nascent Soul cultivators, so naturally, they had their own methods for dealing with enemies. The three of them and their two puppets suddenly gathered in the center. Back to back, they formed a plum blossom-shaped defensive formation. Then, they each took out their own defensive artifacts, which transformed into balls of spiritual light that flashed incessantly. In an instant, they had set up as many as 5 or 6 layers of bright, thick protective shields. Those two ghastly puppets even opened their mouths together, spewing out a thick, grayish-white yin energy. It completely engulfed the figures of the 5 people. At the same time, the silver-haired elder's voice transmission also reached Han Li's ears. It's a demonic beast of this region. It seems to be a formidable one. It would be safer if we stick together. Upon hearing this, Han Li gave a bitter smile. It seems these 3 people, even without a map, managed to make it this far. They really have their own methods. He supposed he didn't need to worry too much about this senior brother Chen. However, while this approach seems safer, it also severely restricts them. They must all act as one to coordinate effectively, and he was not good at coordinating with others. It was better to act alone, as he thought this to himself. The demonic mist had also arrived above Han Li's head. Han Li furrowed his brows slightly. With a flash of azure light, a layer of hazy azure spiritual light enveloped and protected him. Then, he raised both his hands, and continuously flicked his index fingers toward the light mist. Streaks of azure sword che, each about 10 feet long, shot out in a crisscrossing pattern. With great ease, it slashed the blackish-purple light screen to pieces. Seeing this, Han Li's expression turned solemn instead, but after immediately glancing around, he let out a resigned sigh. He lowered his arm. Although the beam of light above his head was scattered, the surroundings began to flash with a black-purple, grinding light. He was already surrounded by the drum membrane's light. At this moment, the secondary beams of the drum membrane covered an area of at least over 10 li. Its presence was truly astonishing. Han Li's hand movements slowed slightly. After a flash, the demonic curtain in the sky returned to its original state. It shone down once again. This time, apart from flicking his sleeve robe and releasing the blue light shield, and adding another protective barrier for himself, he made no other pointless moves. Han Li was instantly enveloped by the black-purple light ink. Submerged within it, his eyes flickered a few times. It seemed as if nothing had happened, but Han Li frowned. He refused to believe the drum membrane would release such a vast light. For no reason, a moment later, while paying close attention, he finally noticed something. His expression immediately darkened. Although his body felt no different, the 2 protective barriers he had released were both showing signs of magical power drain, although it was very faint. Given that it was continuous, the eventual drain on his magic power was easy to imagine. These dark purple motes of light could actually absorb a cultivator's magical power directly? Shock and anger flared within Han Li's heart. After a moment's thought, he clenched both his fists. After a few peals of thunder sounded, two thick, golden arcs of lightning suddenly erupted from his hands. Then, with a flash of electric light, they shot forth, and swiftly sank into the two-layered protective shield. Before they exploded, crackling sounds erupted across the surface of the two cyan and blue shields. Countless fine arcs of electricity leapt and flickered without stopping. Those approaching demonic lights were instantly forced back several inches in fear. The strange phenomenon of his magical power draining stopped at once. Only then did Han Li breathe a sigh of relief. With a flick of his divine sense, the Tianju Demon Master and the Zhong puppet moved forward. Step by step, they surrounded him in the center. Those dozen or so giant turtles were deployed instantly. A great blast of frigid air erupted, one after another. Enormous, crystal-clear ice spikes instantly condensed and took form. All of these actions seemed to be many, but in truth, they happened in the blink of an eye. A cold glint then flashed in Han Li's expressionless eyes. The bright sight spirit eye divine ability was unleashed. But after his gaze swept across the area before him, his heart suddenly sank. What is going on? Down here in the mausoleum, he was surprised to see no trace of the demon soul. This made Han Li's heart sink, but he took a deep breath. The unease in his heart was forcibly suppressed. Then, a clear light flickered wildly across his body. All the spiritual power in his body was mobilized and frantically poured into his eyes. Instantly, his pupils shone with a blue, gold, and silver light. He pushed his bright sight spirit eyes to their absolute limit. This time, after scanning the area with his spiritual power, he finally discovered something. His expression changed instantly. The dozen or so tortoises behind him flashed with spiritual light. Over 1,000 ice spikes of the same size shot out silently. A certain small area to one side was completely enveloped by them. Black shah billowed out like ink. Under the barrage of ice spikes, the two-headed, four-armed demon soul appeared. It revealed itself with a look of surprise. In 3 of its arms, magical artifacts had appeared. 3 treasures, including a circular ring and a small dagger. At that moment, seeing the sky full of ice spikes raining down, it lightly waved 3 of its arms simultaneously. The small dagger shot out a sweeping black mist. After waving the small dagger a few times, a sharp, dark sword chest swept out. As for the circular ring it had just acquired, it's unclear how it knew how to use it. With just a gentle shake, countless ring-like shadows of various sizes shot out densely from its hand. The display was astonishing. Before the sky full of ice spikes could even fall, they were shattered by the power of this magic treasure, smashed to pieces in midair. A vast white chill instantly spread throughout the area, covering an immense area. The temperature plummeted instantly, but the demon soul within it didn't care about this at all. Instead, it gave a sinister smile and flickered. Its figure once again vanished into the demonic light. Han Li's expression turned grim. He stuck out the tip of his tongue and licked his upper lip. This ancient demon soul was truly the one he had encountered since stepping into the cultivation world. The most difficult opponent he had ever faced. If he wasn't careful, he could even perish here. And at this moment, although he had pushed his bright and clear spirit eyes to their limit, but in the demonic light, the demon soul's invisible figure became extremely blurry. Even as it flickered and flew at high speed, he couldn't lock onto its specific pose. Tie-in. He could only see a faint shadow flashing back and forth, only when the demon soul's figure slowed or stopped to barely keep up with his opponent. As a result, Han Li was immediately at a disadvantage. Furthermore, using the bright sight spirit eyes at full power placed an immense strain on his eyes. He couldn't sustain this divine ability indefinitely, and the moment the spirit eye ability weakened slightly, he couldn't even see his opponent's shadow. Han Li was naturally frustrated. The only countermeasure was to break through his opponent's stealth in a short amount of time, or force his opponent to abandon this tactic. He had to make his opponent believe that using stealth against him was useless. Otherwise, continuing to fight against such an elusive opponent, a chill ran down Han Li's spine as he thought this. Without pausing, Han Li's hands moved to slap the spirit beast pouch at his waist. A flash of gold appeared. As a buzzing swarm of insects poured out from the pouch's opening, Han Li didn't command the insect cloud to attack anything. Instead, after letting out a low hum, the insect cloud rumbled and transformed into countless golden flowers, scattering and drifting in all directions. In the blink of an eye, with Han Li at the center, the area within a radius of over 200 feet was shimmering with golden light. filled with the presence of the gold biter beetles. This way, even if Han Li couldn't use his spirit eyes, the demon soul's trail was found. But as soon as this demon entered the swarm's range, it could be sensed immediately. There was no need to fear. It suddenly launched a sneak attack, just a short distance from where the swarm had been deployed. A cold snort rang out. Then, from where the sound originated, the demon soul reappeared in a flash of black light. However, its front head was staring at the area around Han Li, at the swarm of glittering golden spakes. Its expression was rather grim. But this demon, without another word, gave a shake of its head, and the back one silently swapped to the front. A ferocious, evil ghost head now faced Han Li, and it let out a chilling, sinister smile. Han Li's heart went cold. He instantly became extremely vigilant. He saw the opposing ghost head open its mouth wide. A great wave of black ripples shot out silently. Wherever these ripples passed, the nearby golden insects were struck against their will, and were swept into them. Then, one by one, they began to tumble, plummeting down from the sky. Instantly, in the swarm Han Li had deployed, the part facing the demons thrown out at the same time, it immediately transformed into a vast, hazy black light that swept forward. In its path, it stopped these treasures in their tracks, and the one controlling these demonized treasures was precisely the head behind it. Afterwards, the piercing death head unleashed some unknown incantation. The light from the demonized treasures suddenly surged several times over. It instantly formed a giant cage of light. The treasures of the silver-haired elder and the others were all swept up inside it, and trapped within. Then it just continuously poured magical power into the cage of light, without using any other techniques. It seemed the demon soul also intended to first deal with Han Li, its most troublesome opponent, and then slowly deal with the others. Seeing this, Han Li frowned slightly, but just then, the carved head behind the demon soul suddenly spoke. These flying insects are actually not afraid of this venerable one's Hanbo demonic art. As far as I know, in this realm, only a very few types of spirit insects have this kind of ability. But judging by the appearance of these golden beetles, they are most likely the quite famous gold-devouring beetles. These are gold-devouring beetles. They were even stunned for a moment by the shockwave. It's clear they are not the mature forms spoken of in legends. Otherwise, with so many of them, even this venerable one, without the right demonic shit at my disposal, would have to keep a safe distance. It's a pity I'm not using my true body right now. Otherwise, I would truly let you witness the power of the sacred realm's demon butterflies. Immature spirit pets from the human realm like these are the perfect nourishment for my demon butterflies. The demon soul spoke these chilling words. The head at its back glanced over at the demonic hand that was forcing Wei Wuya back step by step. A strange expression appeared on the demon's face. The corner of Pan Li's mouth curled up slightly. His face was extremely indifferent, as if he hadn't heard a thing. But he suddenly shook his embroidered robe. Dozens of golden sword lights instantly shot out from his sleeves. They circled and danced around him. He performed a series of hand seals, one after another. These flying swords immediately shimmered with golden light, transforming into streaks of sword light. He was about to set up the Great Zheng Sword formation, the demon soul. But at this moment, a fierce glint flashed in the eyes of the evil ghost head. Since you're so eager to die, I don't have time to get entangled with you, devouring one more Nascent Soul. I'll have a better chance when I fight that guy in a moment. This body will be useless soon anyway. I'll let you have a taste of the true power of our sacred realm's demonic arts. Now just lie down and die. It's unknown if this demonic soul sensed Han Li's flying sword's threat, or if it was just truly impatient to drag this out any longer. It didn't even give Han Li a chance to set up his sword formation. After a burst of crazed laughter, its figure blurred, and it appeared almost barehanded right inside the insect swarm. Han Li's heart sank. He couldn't afford to set up the sword formation. With his divine sense, he furiously urged the swarm of gold-devouring beetles. Although they were somewhat afraid of the demonic soul before them, under Han Li's forceful command, their ferocity was instantly unleashed. They swarmed madly towards the demonic soul. The tiger demon puppets that were originally surrounding Han Li also flashed with a white light, and with clever coordination, they charged towards the demonic soul. The heavenly fiend demon master then strode forward, blocking the way in front of Han Li. As for the giant turtle puppets behind them, they didn't use the ice spikes on their backs. Instead, they simultaneously raised their necks and opened their mouths, letting out several thick beams of blue light, shooting out directly. Instantly, the demonic soul was caught in a multitude of attacks. Han Li didn't expect these things to actually be able to block this demonic soul, but as long as it could buy him a chance to set up the formation, that would be enough. Just as he had thought, even if so many attacks couldn't defeat the opponent, They should at least be able to hinder its movements, enough for him to complete the formation. But Han Li had still underestimated the transformed, two-headed, four-armed demonic soul's true power. The demonic soul's ghastly heads let out several metallic screeches from their mouths. With a wave of its arms, they became a blur. The index fingers of its forepalms, all rapidly twisted and contorted, forming one strange incantation seal after another. Suddenly, an extremely blinding circle of black light shot out silently from the demonic soul's body. The light was dazzling, making it impossible to look at directly. Then, ring after ring of murky black shockwaves erupted from the demonic soul's body. These layers of explosive shockwaves sent the gold-devouring beetles and tiger demon puppets staggering. After a flash, the more than 10 blue beams of light were dissipated into nothingness. And at that moment, the demonic souls to heads opened their mouths wide simultaneously, a cry even more piercing than a shrill bird's call. A long roar many times more powerful rang out, filled with immense energy. It shook the nearby sky, rumbling and echoing without end. Then the wave of energy instantly dissipated. The black aura dimmed. A layer of glossy, jet black, strange markings covered in long barbs, like a suit of Asura armor, appeared on the surface of the demon soul's body. The aura it radiated shot beyond the 9 heavens. At this moment, the demon soul's ghastly head tilted down slightly. A savage look appeared on its face as it glanced at Han Li. Han Li watched, completely stunned. His heart was filled with utter terror. After transforming again, the demon soul gave a cold sneer. Its figure flickered and vanished like a light breeze. The one that had been standing motionless before Han Li, the heavenly demon master, suddenly let out a low roar. Its 2 arms abruptly moved. Countless jade-green claw shadows shot out with a hiss, making the sound of tearing through the air. Enveloping the area before it, a black light flashed. The figure of the two-headed, four-armed demon soul appeared like a phantom amidst the claw shadows. A flash of green flickered across the demon soul's fiendish face. One of its arms gently pressed towards the claw shadows, instantly becoming even denser than the green claw shadows, piercing the air with even sharper claw gleams, erupting right in front of the demon soul. The moment the 2 attacks made contact, the black gleams easily tore through the green claw shadows. Moreover, its arm bizarrely elongated. In a flash, it stretched several feet long, a black shadow with 5 fingers. It plunged them into the demon corpse's chest, which was as hard as stone. Clenching its 5 fingers, it ripped out a bloody, bowl-sized hole. Black blood gushed out, a grievous wound that would have been fatal to an ordinary cultivator. But for the demon corpse, it only brought a sharp pain to its chest. Instead, it was provoked into a wild frenzy. Not only did it not retreat, instead, one of its arms flashed intensely with green light, instantly transforming into a 3-colored, several-foot-long sharp cone. It stabbed down towards the demon soul with a whoosh. The demon soul let out a soft sound of surprise. It was unclear if it was due to the strength of the demon corpse's life force that it felt slightly surprised, or because of the sharp cone that suddenly materialized, that it felt greatly astonished. But after its brief surprise, the demon soul instead let out a cold laugh. Its 2 arms moved like phantoms in front of its chest. Just as the 3-colored cone arrived, it was instantly caught by 2 hands covered in jet black. Their hard-shelled palms clamped it firmly in between, unable to advance another inch. Then, a smirk appeared on the corner of Ghostface's mouth. He suddenly grabbed it with both hands, and then twisted with great force. He was about to forcibly snap this cone in 2. With a soft popping sound, before he could twist further, the cone burst open on its own. A cloud of 3-colored insects suddenly appeared there. Then it mercilessly swarmed towards the demonic soul's head. At such a close distance, such a bizarre and sudden turn of events, even though he was already channeling his demonic arts to the absolute limit, the demonic soul was still greatly taken aback. Seeing the insect cloud about to descend, a green glint flashed across the demonic soul's face. He suddenly opened his mouth. Rings of black shockwaves shot out from his mouth. In an instant, it enveloped the 3-colored insect cloud that was right upon him. A bizarre scene unfolded. The 3-colored gold-devouring beetles were trapped within the black ripples. Instantly, their bodies froze in place. Then came a series of muffled pops. These flying insects began to self-destruct one after another, turning into a sky full of blood mist that drifted and dispersed. The 3-colored gold-devouring beetles, after all, did not have bodies as tough as the golden gold-devouring beetles. This cloud of insects was being obliterated by the demonic sound from the demon soul, whose power had greatly increased. So brutally, my royal bones are completely gone. Not a single one remains. Just then, Shai Zhao's other arm also swiped down. A look of impatience appeared on the demon soul's face. Its expression immediately turned cold. With a flicker, it vanished from where it stood. The next moment, it abruptly appeared behind Shizi. A jet-black fist swung backhandedly with a deceptive lightness. For some reason, the movement seemed slow, yet Shizi only had time to turn his head slightly before the fist was already upon him. At the same time, a foot-long, jet-black bone spike instantly shot out from the fist, brutally piercing one side of Shi Zhao's skull and exiting through the other. Shi Zhao's body immediately trembled. All of his movements ceased. The demon soul gave a sinister smile. Black flames suddenly erupted from the bone spike and began to burn furiously. As it retracted the bone spike, Shi Zhao's body swayed a few times in the black flames, then plummeted straight to the ground. From the moment the demon soul reappeared and transformed again, to finishing off Shizi with the bone spike, all of this seemed to take a long time. In reality, it was just the blink of an eye. The moment Han Li saw that demon soul approach, the heavenly demon corpse as it moved forward to engage, he shot backwards without a second thought, wanting to increase the distance from this demon. At the same time, he also willed the numerous golden sword lights circling above his head. Instantly, all the sword lights were linked together by his sword art. The myriad sword shadows transformed into layers of golden waves. With a move of his divine sense, Han Li was about to command these golden lights to press down on the demon soul's location, but unexpectedly, in just that moment of delay, the two-headed, six-armed demon soul had already defeated the heavenly demon corpse that remained in place. Han Li sucked in a cold breath. His heart felt bitter. At the same time, he felt the sting of the loss. This heavenly demon corpse, which he had just trained to be serviceable, had only been deployed here once, and it was easily defeated by the demon before him. Now, its refined corpse limbs had fallen to the ground. Its state of life or death was unknown, but it seemed that even if it hadn't truly perished, it had already completely lost its combat ability. As he thought this, Han Li, multitasking, urged with his divine sense the ones that had been scattered by the shockwave just now. The tiger waist puppets had already stabilized themselves. The flashing white light pounced toward the demonic soul again, and those giant turtle puppets did the same as Han Li. They shot off, scattering in all directions. A blue light flickered in their mouths, about to spew beams of icy light once more. Meanwhile, the dense sword shadows, circling above Han Li's head, also thundered down toward the demonic soul. Seeing this situation, the demonic soul let out a cold snort. It gave a slight wave of its membranous limbs. Instantly, along its long arms, at the elbows and the tips of its fists, jet-black bone spurs sprouted out one by one. The bone spurs were of various shapes. Some were curved, some were perfectly straight, but every single one glinted with a sinister, cold light. They looked extremely sharp. Before those tiger demon puppets could get close, the demonic soul, with a whoosh, vanished from its original spot. All the attacks lost their target at once. They could not help but pause for a moment. At this moment, a black light flashed. The demonic soul was behind a tiger demon puppet. Having appeared eerily close, it waved its long arms lightly. The swishing sound of something cutting through the air rang out. Black streaks of light flashed across the tiger demon puppet's body. It was instantly dismantled, turning into a pile of scrap metal. Its figure flickered. The demon soul vanished again. Black fur flashed beside another puppet, and it was pierced straight through the chest by a thick bone spike. It immediately went limp and collapsed. Han Li watched from a distance, both shocked and furious. He commanded the golden sword shadows to relentlessly pursue the demon soul, but this demon would simply vanish on the spot, only to reappear like a ghost in an unexpected place. The demon soul, with its greatly increased cultivation, its teleportation arts, and its concealment techniques all worked together seamlessly. In the blink of an eye, the tiger demon puppets were completely unable to form any effective defense, which was a blow to Han Li's pride. In terms of close-quarters combat, he was far stronger than ordinary cultivators. But now, seeing the demon soul's methods, a chill ran down his spine. Compared to this demon soul, his close combat skills were completely amateurish. He quickly activated his bright-sight spirit eyes, but still couldn't lock onto this demon. In that instant of shock, the demon soul pulled the bone spike in its hand from the neck of the last tiger demon puppet. Then it glanced carelessly at Han Li. The coldness in its eyes made Han Li's heart sink. He started to feel a chill. Ever since reaching the great completion of the Nascent Soul stage, this feeling of unease had been gone for a long time, but now it had resurfaced in his heart. Han Li let out a breath, forcing himself to remain calm. From the looks of it now, with the opponent's bizarre movement speed that was almost like teleportation, calmly setting up a large formation would probably be very difficult. He could only use other methods to stall for time. After thinking this over, Han Li solemnly controlled the giant sword in the air. It immediately burst into light again. With a clear hum, it silently turned and shot back to a position above Han Li's head. Then the golden light flickered erratically. The light from the heavy swords transformed into layers of golden waves, protecting Han Li completely within them. Afterward, Han Li formed a hand seal with both hands. On his body, thunder rumbled to life. Thick golden arcs of lightning emerged from his body, one after another. At the same time, numerous fine electric arcs intertwined ceaselessly. They actually formed a layer of golden electric armor on his body. It shimmered with the golden light, making it extremely eye-catching. At the same time, he opened his mouth again and spat out a four-eyed purple sphere of light, which hovered behind him. The purple swallow grew wildly to about a foot long, with a sharp cry emanating from the fireball. A purple firebird, about a foot in length, materialized out of thin air. It continuously flapped its wings and danced around Han Li's body. It showered down clusters of purple sparks, flickering in and out of existence. It was an exceptionally beautiful sight. This was all the purple apex heaven fire that Han Li had managed to cultivate up to this point. This series of techniques from Han Li seemed to have piqued the demon soul's interest. After a ferocious expression flashed across its ghostly face, it actually stood its ground without moving. It seemed to want a clear look at exactly what kind of techniques Han Li possessed. Before launching a thunderous strike, Han Li glanced expressionlessly at the ferocious demon soul and its unusual behavior. A glint flashed in his eyes. Suddenly, with a flip of his palm, a strange, small, blood-red sword materialized in his hand. This sword was several inches long, but its entire body was a crystalline, blood-red color, radiating a dazzling bloody light. And within the sword's body, a faint wisp of black energy could be seen swirling within, making it look extremely bizarre. The moment the blood-colored small sword appeared, before Han Li could even activate it, it began to tremble and hum on its own. A bloody aura immediately filled the air. Han Li knew that recklessly using this sword would have serious consequences, but with his life on the line, he couldn't worry about such things now. He opened his mouth and sprayed a cloud of cyan essence cha onto the small sword. The blood-red light was blinding. The sword instantly grew in size, growing to about a foot long as it levitated into the air. Han Li's expression was grave. He gripped the hilt of the sword. After a glance, he swung it gently. He immediately felt a large amount of true essence from his body surging into the sword. He hastily severed the connection of his spiritual power. He muttered to himself about how sinister this sword was. Then, holding the sword in one hand, Han Li looked on coldly. He gazed at the demonic soul opposite him. The demonic soul, whose expression had been ferocious all along. Upon seeing Han Li take out the blood devil sword, its face changed drastically as a trace of fear flashed across it. At the same time, it stared at the sword without blinking. Han Li saw the other party's expression. He was stunned for a moment, and felt somewhat surprised in his heart. Very good. I never expected that you would possess the sacred artifact we left in this realm. If you are willing to hand this sacred artifact over to me now, I can spare your life, and let you leave this place. After a moment, the demonic soul finally confirmed that the item in Han Li's hand, the demon-storing sword, was indeed what it had thought. After a flicker of joy crossed its face, it actually spoke such words. How infuriating. This thing is a magic artifact from your ancient demon realm. Han Li was naturally very surprised. He frowned and asked, HMPH, you don't need to know anything about the sacred realm. I only ask whether you agree or not. The demonic soul had no intention of saying anything more. After its eyes paused for a moment, its voice turned ice cold. If your excellency were a human cultivator, for the sake of my own life, I would have no problem agreeing. But as for your excellency, hey, Han Li rolled his eyes. A look of cold mockery appeared on his face. When the demonic soul heard this, it unexpectedly did not get angry, much to Han Li's surprise. Instead, its pair of silver-white eyes suddenly narrowed. Its gaze swept over the phantoms before Han Li, the purple fire bird, and the blood demon sword several times. Only then did its demeanor slowly turn ice cold. Han Li, however, stared back coldly without a word. The wine thunder wings on his back slowly emerged. His magical power began to circulate rapidly within his body. Just at this moment, a loud explosion echoed from the distance. Han Li and the demon soul were both startled and glanced over. They saw flashes of light there. Several clusters of light in different colors were breaking out from the black radiance, and in the blink of an eye, the radiance collapsed and dispersed, once again revealing the ring, the small sword, and the three demon swords, the original forms of the magic treasures, but their surfaces were dull and dim, appearing to have been severely damaged. Just when the demon soul was fully focused on dealing with Han Li, It had carelessly underestimated the three silver-haired elders. Although these three were only early-stage Nascent Soul cultivators, each one was a veteran of countless battles. They had somehow unleashed some kind of secret technique in a short amount of time, and worked together to break the restriction trapping their treasures. However, they had just witnessed the demon soul's elusive and bizarre movement techniques, and being utterly shocked, they naturally wouldn't proactively move closer to Han Li. They merely commanded their several magic treasures to attack the demon soul from afar, hoping to create some sort of diversion. These three men were very clear that Han Li was the main force fighting this demon. If Han Li were to fall, the three of them would absolutely meet a terrible fate. That these three could lend a helping hand at this moment naturally made Han Li overjoyed. If they could give him the opportunity for his subordinates to witness it, that would be even better. As Han Li thought this, he couldn't help but glance at the demonic soul opposite him. The demonic soul stared at the treasure flying towards it, and then glanced at Han Li's demonic skull. Its eyes twitched slightly, and it suddenly let out a sinister smile. Its body began to move. After a blur of after images, the demon suddenly vanished on the spot. Seeing this, Han Li's heart jolted. He hurriedly scanned the area with his spiritual eyes. His expression immediately turned to alarm. Not good. He let out a loud shout. Then, without another word, he activated his spiritual sense. The scattered weeping return puppets raised their necks and shot out successive blue beams of light. Their target was surprisingly the area surrounding the silver-haired old man.